Former UFC champion Conor McGregor had shared an old video on his Instagram story, which has now been deleted. In the video, he quoted, "I believe that the more resistance you train with, the less movement and the more injury, whereas the less resistance you train with, the more movement and the less injury. This activity has led people to speculate that something bad may have happened to him and that the UFC is trying to keep it under wraps."
Yeah, I think the more resistance you train with, the less movement and the more injury. But the less resistance you train with, the more movement and the less injury.
Ariel Helwani reports that the UFC 303 main event between Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler is once again uncertain.
On Tuesday, I reported that the UFC was sending out feelers. They were reaching out to fighters and managers to see who could possibly be available to either replace the fight, meaning 2 new fighters, or step in and replace one of the fighters involved to fight on this card. Obviously, the fighter that we're talking about is Conor McGregor because, if not, why would Chandler be ready to go on a plane to Dublin? And so I said that it seemed like we were all good, and by Wednesday, no feelers were being thrown out. No one was talking about this really. It seemed as though all systems were a go. And more proof to that was Chandler doing the interview with The Pivot, speaking about everything that he had been through over the past week. That interview was done late last week. But yesterday morning, started to hear, as I continued to check in, because I know there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of doubt, a lot of concern about this because it's such a big fight and because no one involved, in particular from the UFC side and from the McGregor camp, are speaking about this publicly. Chandler did the one interview and that was it, and I think that squashed some concern, but no one is coming out and really talking about this. So I understand the concern. So I continue to check in and be a pest and be annoying. And I found out that via multiple sources that they are reaching out to people again. They are reaching out to managers. They are reaching out to fighters. And as I reported yesterday, as potential replacements, i.e. a new fight, as backups, as someone stepping in for McGregor, or as just insurance, as a, just in case we need to know, all these things are at play.
Last night, he tweeted the latest on UFC 303 around this time last week. All the anxiety surrounding the UFC 303 main event seemed to start to dissipate. By Wednesday, no more feelers about replacements were being sent out. All systems seemed to be a go. Again, later in the week, Chandler did an interview with The Pivot about it being all good, and on Saturday, UFC was promoting it again on the ABC Fight Night telecast. There was a scare about the fight being off, and the scare appeared to be no more, but since this morning, multiple sources are now saying feelers are being sent out again for June 29 for a replacement and/or new fight. In short, there seems to pessimism all over again regarding the status of the 303 main event. Actually, even more pessimism, it seems, than on Monday last week, after the presser was cancelled at the last minute. Is this insurance? Due diligence? Emergency replacement mode? Remains to be seen. It's all developing again, but it doesn't appear as though we are out of the woods either way just yet. More to come, and hopefully a definitive answer one way or the other in short order.